Hi, I'm Jilliana Brown, and this is my audience. Ouch.
And me.
Okay, great. So I'm Jilliana Brown, and my topic is foster care in our country. Most social workers have their job to help kids who are in need and abusive homes and all of that. But what about the government officials that are putting in these laws that are supposed to help these kids that are in need? Is their focus really on the families, or is it somewhere else? And for my research, I found that the government's really not doing too much to ensure the welfare of these foster kids. They're passing laws, but then they're not following through with the foster agencies. So my question to you is, why aren't we doing more to, ensure that these troubled kids are getting the help that they receive? Why are we putting these kids on the back burner when we know that statistics show that foster kids have a higher rate for drug use and teen pregnancy and homelessness and all of those negative impacts that you don't want people in society to be suffering from? So I'm going to go over some major problems that our foster care system has and how we can make it better personally. And I'm first going to begin with the role our government plays in the foster care system. So the federal child care safety standards are really simple. However, state agencies are failing to meet the requirements for some odd, strange reason. This is basically because the government isn't enforcing the standards. In 2004, every state failed to receive a passing grade when the U.S. Health and Human Services Department completed its review of the state and local welfare child agencies. That's really, really bad. The next year, it was improved a little bit. 16 states actually passed, but there was still a huge amount that wasn't meeting these 7 requirements to ensure that these kids are getting what they need to survive. So I want to know how this is possible. It's not just the responsibility of the government to make sure that these things are taken care of. It's the child welfare centers. They should be holding themselves accountable for meeting those requirements, not just because they're expected to, but because it's their job. So there is an establishment here in Virginia called Elk Hill Farm. It was established in 1970. This is actually really interesting. It's a really great place to volunteer. The closest offices are in Richmond, which is about an hour's drive away. But I think it's totally worth it to help out, even if it's just once a month for these kids that really need, mentors and people to look up to. There's always something we can do. We don't have to just stand by and expect for the organizations to step up to the plate. So foster care children need help for many reasons, mostly because their parents are unable to take care of them. The top reasons for kids being put into foster care are very legitimate. Most kids are neglected or abused because their parents are under the influence of drugs, have substance abuse problems, or they have mental health problems, or they're incarcerated. So that's it's a good thing to have, but I feel like more steps should be taken to ensure that the parents are also getting help, not just the kids, because a lot of these kids are being put there because their parents are under the influence of drugs, and treatment for substance abuse is really limited here. It's very surprising that only a third of people in the United States receive treatment that actually need it. So with the foster care system, they really put a big thing on reunification with family. And it's really important to them, but my thing is, how are they supposed to be reunified with their families if they're not getting help to overcome these drug problems or the mental health problems that they have? So most times kids are reunited with their families, but the whole process is really, really trying for everybody involved. Um, what we can do is help to push more programs to help out um, troubled parents, single mothers, kids with or parents with health problems or whatever. We can push for those programs when, we just had an election. We hear things like that, vote for people who are going to push programs like that, because that's the easiest way to get these kids out of the foster care system. Teenagers are probably the most affected by the broken system. Almost half of foster children are over the age of 11, and 20,000 teenagers leave the child welfare system every year via emancipation, but they're not prepared to survive on their own. The federal government set up a program called Independent Living Skills to provide foster kids with adult living skills. But at the age of 18, they're cut off pretty much and forced to provide themselves with living and a job and transportation and job skills, and that's something that the program doesn't provide. So the thing is that former foster care children are at a higher risk for substance abuse, homelessness, and lower education, so we should be mentoring them, and that's a good way to help troubled teens, because they really just need someone to look up to and confide in. Our nation's children don't really have to be victims of the broken foster care system. We can help them, and if we don't help them, what does that mean for our future? The rate of foster care is not getting better, and even with government help, there's still so much we can do. There are things you and I could be doing as well. Foster care centers and child welfare agencies are in need of volunteers all the time. They're mentoring programs for single mothers and youth, and I know most of you come from stable homes, and you don't have very much firsthand experience, but we can, stand up and make it better for them, and, those kids deserve a better future, and we can have a hand in foster care success. Thank you for listening, and my name's Jilliana Brown.